Good morning. I'm calling this meeting to order, the Salton Sea Authority on September 12th. Please rise. We'll have Pledge of Allegiance today led by our Luis Plancarte.
Good morning, everybody. Please join me in saluting our great flag. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we can have the clerk please call the roll.
Good morning. President Dockstader,
Present.
Vice President Estrada, Secretary Gutierrez, Treasurer Kelly, Director Santillanes, Director Plancarte,
Good morning, all. Here.
Director Tortez, Director Aguilar, Director Cardenas, Director Perez,
Here.
Ex officio Samantha Arthur.
Here.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Moving on, changes to the agenda. The board will be asked to review and may change the order of agenda items to accommodate scheduling or other needs of the board, the public, or meeting participants. Members of the public are encouraged to arrive at the beginning of the meeting to ensure they are present for board discussion or action regarding items of interest. The board may also add agenda items, but only as provided under Government Code Section 54954.2. At this time, we will take public comments. This public comment time is reserved for commenting on any item not on the agenda. California law prohibits members of the board from acting on matters not on the agenda. Members of the public may address the board regarding any matter within the authority's jurisdiction, but are asked to speak to any specific item on the agenda at the time it is called. Speakers should state their name for the record and address all comments to the chair, limiting remarks to 3 minutes. Good luck with that. And I do believe at this time we do have public comments. First, I would like to call Mr. Ronald Spears. Doesn't matter which mic he uses. I want you to use the one that works. Let's try it. Touch it.
Okay.
Oh, there you go. You're on.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
I guess so. Okay. Good morning, Chairperson and board members. My name is Ron Spears, and I'm a member of the Board of Directors for the Bahia Del Mar Property Owners Association and Chairman of the Desert Shores Channel Restoration Oversight Committee. I will be speaking on behalf of both groups. We are becoming exceedingly frustrated at the lack of progress in the development of the final project planned by GAFCON for the Desert Shores Channel Restoration Project. We are also concerned about what we have heard from reliable sources that the Salton Sea Authority and GAFCON have deviated from the original project and plan in order to submit funding proposals for an excessive amount of money for the Desert Shores project. We are in direct opposition to any deviation from the original proposal and have consistently emphasized that our laser focus should be directed on our two main objectives. Number one, the building of the berm in the former boat channel with the approval of the appropriate permits from Imperial County and other agencies. And number two, the drilling of a well to supply water to the channels. That has always been our focus and will continue to remain our focus. And any additional funds are all well and good, but should be ancillary to the two main objectives. Since there is concern that there is a possibility that the channels might have excessive seepage and therefore require grading and lining of the channels and banks with clay, the Bahia Del Mar Property Owners Association has allocated sufficient resources to conduct a channel bank seepage measurement project, which will determine the amount of seepage along the banks of the channels. This project is being conducted by Tom Sefton and will require 1 to 2 months of seepage measurements once the completed berm in a mini canyon in the channel banks has been filled with water. The property has already been approved by the landowner and road base aggregate has been built into a water retention berm over the last 2 weekends by local volunteers with a rented backhoe. We are in the process of hiring a professional hydrologist to verify and advise on the project's seepage measurement methodology. Should seepage measurements be moderate compared to seasonal water evaporation, there would be no need for the excessive costs that would be incurred in the grading and lining of the channels and banks with clay, and the Desert Shores Channel Restoration Project can proceed as originally planned within the existing budget. I would personally like to invite Chairperson Gina Dockstetter and any other Authority Board members that are interested in the project to come to Desert Shores and observe the Mini Canyon Seepage Measurement Project. Thank you for your time and consideration, and both the Bahia Del Mar Property Owners Association and the Desert Shores Channel Restoration Project Oversight Committee would encourage the Board of Directors of the Salton Sea Authority to take a more active role in the decision-making processes of the Desert Shores Channel Restoration Project. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Spears. Appreciate that. Next, we will have Mr. Eric Reyes.
Work? All right. Eric Reyes, 1135 Apple Way in Brawley, also Executive Director Los Amigos de la Comunidad, Environmental Justice and Social Justice Group, working the Salton Sea general area. Couple things. One was I was here for the SKIA presentation, but it's been postponed, but that's fine. So now I can even have a better opportunity to make some other points. One was that when the vote was going to be before the ID board, and we had seen all of the comments that were being brought in by in the 30-day comment period, there was nothing from the Salton Sea Authority. That was very, very disappointing. I don't know if it was discussed or you do not, but as a Salton Sea Authority, obviously you had the obligation and duty to make such a comment. There could be recommendations, doesn't have to be a knockout, drag-out fight with the issue, but making points that you have already made at these meetings before, including when this first came out a year and a half ago before this vote, that you were not in agreement with the natural resources modeling of the playa. I don't know if there was any follow-up done by this authority. And then also the air monitoring that you were finding out how many there were, and Comité Cívico, you brought them here and they made a presentation on how many they have. What is the data that we can use to make these type of comments? So the chairman of the board of the ID arrogantly asked his lawyer, which he already knew the answer, was, well, did the Salton Sea Authority enter a comment letter? It was just for show. He knew the answer. We knew the answer because we knew who had turned in answer. We had turned in our comments as other environmental groups and other interested groups as well. So I think you have an opportunity still when they make the presentation to make those recommendations, make those thoughts and feelings that maybe individually you have, which you did not come to a vote for as a group, as Salton Sea Authority, which was very disappointing. Now, there's a new conservancy coming up that Senator Padilla is coming forward, right? And hopefully you will take that as a challenge to meet what their goals are. But the point is public health and the receding Salton Sea is what you are here for. And you should be commenting at all times on those type of things. It doesn't have to be, like, again, derogatory, but recommendations, suggestions, and from the information you have. And I've already stated, I know because we have so many different agencies, it's difficult, and everyone has their agency orientation and drive, but I want you to put that aside and think of the Salton Sea Authority and public health. Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Eric, what specifically are you referring to? I didn't get that first part. What's the issue you're referring to?
The 3-year deal the Imperial Irrigation District has just entered into with the Bureau of Reclamation to hold back up to 700,000 acre feet in the next 3 years at Lake Mead. There was a 30-day comment period that they opened up, and various groups turned in their comments and their recommendations and their studies, and the Salton Sea Authority did nothing.
All right. Thank you for
Thank you.
bringing that up. Is there any opinion on that at all?
So we did file comments when the original SEIS was filed, and those comments, the issues relating to the comments that we raised, we discuss at virtually every Salton Sea Authority board meeting. In addition to that, a lot of the concerns that we have had relative to our initial comments were substantively addressed and are being addressed by the feasibility study, and I think beyond that, the greater concern is going to be the longer-term post-2026 guideline implementation. That's where the greatest, most sustainable impacts are going to be. So we haven't been absent on the issue. I appreciate the comment, and I think that that's worth noting, and I think that we will certainly be engaged in that regard on a going forward basis.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Next up, we have Karina Quintanilla. Hopefully I did justice to your last name.
My name is Karina Quintanilla, resident of the City of Palm Desert, mayor of the City of Palm Desert, and am very passionate about the Salton Sea. I want to be sure to invite everyone that's present, anyone listening, that there will be a Salton Sea Summit at UC Riverside on the 18th and 19th of October. Last year, it was a very powerful opportunity to hear from people that are at the cutting edge of research. These are people that are working on PhDs and opportunities to see how the studies and science can come into converting policy. I was very impressed, for example, by an individual whose PhD was on the meteorology of sandstorms. That kind of information would make it easier to tell the schools there will be extra wind in your area. Please don't let your kids go outside versus it's going to be a windy day. I think that because as a state, as a local entity, we provide a lot of support for our educational institutions, and we can save money instead of going to consultants and work directly with the people at the cutting edge of research. As our weather has had changes, as we are still recovering from the tropical storm, our air quality has been severely impacted in this part of the valley. We know now that people are willing to take a second look at how it impacts tourism. So where the Salton Sea is entirely separate, it is a health crisis. I'm wondering if there is a way to engage the public by highlighting the fact that suddenly people realize air quality matters. How can we leverage that awareness to suddenly bring it forward and make it a pressing issue? So again, I invite you to attend the Salton Sea Symposium at UCR's Palm Desert campus, October 18th and 19th. Thank you for your time and have a wonderful day.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Go right ahead.
What's your relationship to UCR or to that symposium?
What was that?
What's your relationship to UC Riverside or that symposium?
My relationship to UCR is alumni, and I have been part of the Salton Sea Action Committee that has been involved with tossing around ideas and ensuring that we have people present. And personally, I asked them to reach out to some of our local physicians, such as immunologists, pulmonologists, and take the additional level to public health.
So, but I guess what I'm wondering is that you're representing right now the Salton Sea Action Committee and asking folks to attend the summit, the symposium.
I'm not representing them. I did not step forward and say that that was my role. I came as the opportunity, since we are discussing the Salton Sea, to ensure that this level of awareness of science that can be used to educate and be part of policy. I didn't say I was representing them. I am somebody that's been very passionate, and I can keep going on, but won't bore you with the details, as you are also subject matter experts on the policy and the challenges.
I was just wondering if you were actually representing anybody or you're representing yourself.
I'm representing myself.
Okay.
I'm representing myself, again, as a community member, concerned, hoping that we can see outreach going.
Thank you very much, Karina.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Supervisor. Thank you, everyone.
I believe that's the end of our public comments.
Online, at least.
Oh, online.
Vicki Doyle.
Vicki Doyle, you want to unmute?
She's unmuted. Vicky, you're unmuted if you'd like to speak. We have Nathan White.
Hi, thank you so much. I appreciate everybody's hard work on all the issues for many years. I'm representing Ages Inc. today as a project management team. Been vocal and excited about the Salton Sea for about a decade now, and really think about the Salton Sea as a template for global restoration, opportunities, technology that can be deployed here, that can be expanded elsewhere. My comments today, first is to congratulate Ms. Dockstetter on being president, since I haven't been here since her appointment, and also just to thank the community members that brought up the issues surrounding Desert Shores. We've been working on that project for about 10 years, just as long, and handed that off to California Natural Resources Agency about 4 years ago, alongside with the Ecomedia Compass and the different shareholders, stakeholders, and community advocates. So I would kind of echo that assertion or request to have Salton Sea Authority take a more active role in managing or kind of incentivizing or helping move that project along with California Natural Resources Agency. I see that as a template that can also be done in Salton City, the keys that are there and other places. I know the focus is on North Shore, but these other communities could really benefit from environmental projects, bird habitat, fish, fish hatching and things like that. On a bigger note, I would ask, and I know that it might not be possible, but the Salton Sea Authority, if there's more potential to, take an active role with the Army Corps of Engineers and look more holistically at other solutions. I know the Army Corps of Engineers has taken California Natural Resources recommendations for their long-range planning and water import or non-water import. I think if they broaden their horizons and broaden their spectrum, they might see that there are solutions that were not just vetted through UC Santa Cruz. On that note, too, I would say that and maybe request if the Salton Sea Authority might be interested in a binational summit and discussion, or maybe an invitation to Mexican authorities that would be involved in water importation. I know from all of the different agencies, Conagua, Sermonot, and the International Water and Boundary Commission, that is an opportunity that they're interested in. They would like to take a more active role and participate in some of the discussions. They're very interested in water importation, but I think it would take a coordination opportunity between the Salton Sea Authority and some of the local agencies in Mexico to kind of look at some of those solutions, or maybe consider looking back at UC Santa Cruz's findings, and maybe if there's a working group or an agency that would like to take that, or a subcommittee of the Salton Sea, that I think is a valuable resource, so that Army Corps is not just looking at in-basin studies. Last note, our team is going to be working, and I'm excited to join UCR. Hopefully, I really like the summit that they're providing, but our team is going to host in the next few months or next year a binational summit, and we'd like to invite everybody to that. We don't have a date set yet, but I think those discussions south of the border can really help get things on the ground. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, everybody, for your hard work, and hopefully California Natural Resources Agency can look beyond just burrowing and dust mitigation. I think restoration is really our opportunity here. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Thank you, Mr. White. Appreciate it. Was that Lisa for online
How about
comments?
Doyle? We tried Doyle once and there was no,
You want to go back to Vicky
we're
then?
going to try that one more time.
Vicky Doyle, you're...
We are unable to unmute her for some reason.
Okay. Sorry, Vicky. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and move on to board member comments. Does any of the board member have a comment? Mr. Perez?
I do, Madam Chair. Thank you. And I'm seeing here in the agenda as well that under 5E, letter G, we'll have some discussion regarding project updates. I think it is important that we potentially have a meeting within the Salton Sea Authority Committee that deals with projects to discuss where we are. There was a good point made by the gentleman here. Is it Mr. Pierce? Spears. Around Desert Shores and what's happening there. I think that's important to discuss. The point that was made by Eric, Mr. Reyes. I think that would be also an issue of importance to discuss, as well as all the other concerns that are coming before us, whether that be the mitigation of the Salton Sea or the south end of the sea, as we're talking about lithium or we're talking about air pollution and public health, whatever that may be. I know that we have a few projects that are highlighted, but potentially maybe we need to have some sort of longer, deeper dive discussion on all the different concerns that people have and think through what does that mean. Is there any connection to a specific project, or does that mean something entirely different? And where does the Salton Sea Authority fit in with that, or maybe even the Conservancy? I just want to bring that up because I think that's important to get us all up to speed. And then aside from that, the symposium will be taking place in October, and the discussion on the mitigation of the sea obviously is one, but the air pollution would be another. Today, later, in connection with that, we're going to be having a meeting through CVAG with relation to the South Coast Air Quality Management District and CARB, and finally being able to bring those entities to the table to understand, what are we seeing out there? We all obviously have the concern PM 2.5 and PM 10, and we do know that does have a public health impact, but there's this new phenomena that's taking place as you're driving, and we don't know how critical it may be when it comes to public health, but you can see it. And it has to deal with dust that is in the air, and is there any type of link to concerns with respiratory illnesses, for example, or just overall just public health? We don't know that yet. The science doesn't back that up yet. But I think it's important that we get into that because it is having an issue when we're talking about the economic health of the area, as well as the social health, as well as even the public health. So it's all connected. And so at the end of the day, I know that there was discussion or a point made, I think by yourself, Patrick, that eventually we're going to have a meeting of the projects to discuss projects. I think we should have that. I think we should schedule that, invite the public so that they are aware and have more of a workshop, a discussion on each project, a briefing, and then get an idea from the folks themselves. What is it that they're seeing? What is it they want to see out there? Just because of obviously the fact is that changes are coming. In 2 years, we'll have a new administration. In a couple of years, we're going to have new leadership. Eddie's no longer going to be an assembly member. We got to start thinking about how that's going to have some sort of impact. Secretary Crowfoot, who knows what's going to happen with him? I mean, obviously he's been a champion for us, but I'm hoping that potentially he can also help guide us even afterwards, or maybe he'll continue in his post. I don't know. But we need to have this discussion. So I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you very much. And then if people want to get online and watch that meeting later this afternoon at noon, I understand it's WebEx, correct? And how do you?
We can find that out for you.
All right, we might want to just before the end and maybe announce it in case people want to log on.
Yeah, we'll get that info.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have anything they want to add?
If we do get that information, I'll put it on saltonsea.com.
Okay.
Make sure people can go there on the current meeting page.
Thank you. And then I just do want to add, I did talk to Alex Cardenas on my way up here, and he does send his regrets. He was called into a meeting also at CVAG, Coachella Valley Association of Government meeting. So he apologized, but it's so difficult to be in two places at one time. So just wanted to acknowledge him. Thank you. If there's no other board comments at this time, I'm assuming nothing online.
Madam President?
Oh.
Yep, Director Tortes for the Torres Martinez tribe. And I just wanted to bring the awareness, as Director brought up here, about 5E and education, outreach, and advocacy. And I know a few meetings ago that we had a scientific report about the PM10 and the particles in the air, and it was confirmed by that scientific report that there are particles in the air that may or may not be, but I think they were alluding to bacterial quantities in that PM respiratory, stuff that's getting in the air. So with this education, outreach, and advocacy, are we relaying that information? Because as Director said, it is a health impact within the area, and I think the scientific report was going to go further and determine what the makeup is of that bacterial content in the PM material that's getting into the air. I just wanted two things to know if we've followed up on that, the bacterial report of the quality of that material that's in the air, and if we're going to relay that information to the public, since I believe it is a public health concern. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. You have a comment?
So I'm happy to address that now. That is precisely why I'm recommending to the board that we set aside funds to begin a more robust effort. And again, what we're not trying to do is build a whole nother piece of infrastructure to address communications, but rather to look at engaging resources that can evaluate the abilities of all of our member agencies, all of our partners, all of our stakeholders in the community, and make sure that all of the messages that are circulating are harmonized. The summit that's coming up, I'm on the advisory committee forming that, and I think that's going to be a critical part of defining the questions. And I think we can't get to the answers unless we can define the questions. And for a long time, I think we've lived in an environment of appropriate concerns and unfounded concerns. But it's difficult to differentiate the others, and I think it's incumbent upon this group as a whole, our partners at the states and others, to bring the right technical, scientific, political, public relations resources so that people don't know that the people who are in charge know what they're doing, the resources have been allocated to address it, and if there are problems, they know what they are and how to deal with it. So I don't mean to basically address items, the agenda item in advance, but thank you for bringing that up. I think it is in fact what we have been discussing at the authority for the last since June 14th of 2022.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Do we have a comment from Director Castillo?
Yes, Madam President, I think you're referring to me.
Yes, I am. Sorry. Oh, Estrada. Oh my gosh.
I got two last names.
Sorry. Yeah. That's right.
It's all good. Thank you. Well, first is I need to jump off in about 15-20 minutes, so wanted to let the members here know that I'm going to be logging off in 20 minutes. But since we're in the kind of touching on communications, and I know we're going to get into that in a bit, is I do believe that the Salton Sea Authority needs to get a better handle on its messaging. I think that we've lacked that for a long time. And I know that we've been trying to take care of that through some sort of, I think we recruited at one point, that didn't last very long. I know that we had some money from the state to help us with that. I believe that wasn't really put to use, and I believe that was maybe retracted by the state. So not sure if what the final outcome of that was, whether we are keeping that money to try to beef up our communications or whether in fact it went back to the state. But I do think that it's important for us to have a microphone as the Salton Sea Authority, as a way to be able to try to tell as much as possible the whole scope of the story. I think sometimes what we suffer from is too many of the member agencies kind of looking at things perhaps maybe from a perspective that issues that might be more pertinent to those member agencies. And so, this is something that I felt for maybe even longer than, I think, Patrick, you said since 2022 or 2020, but I think it's something that we've struggled with for a long, long time. We know that there's a lot of efforts out there for messaging. You have some of the nonprofits working on symposiums. You have the state of California doing kind of their own workshops. You might even have the counties doing their own workshops. And so, I think there's some benefit to that. But I think that there's also a benefit in the Salton Sea Authority as kind of the body that's representative of all of these individual bodies to start doing some of that. And so we just want to encourage everyone to think about that, to kind of, for us to get a little bit more serious about checking off that box. And those are just thoughts I wanted to share. Thank you.
You're welcome, Director Estrada. I agree with you. So does anybody else have any other comments? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the consent calendar. I forgot to read about the Brown Act. Does anybody care? We're done. We skipped that. It's fine. You knew about the Brown Act. Thank you. It was on the agenda. Consent calendar can approve, receive, and file minutes of Salton Sea Authority's special board meeting July 18th, the warrant register ratification July 31st, and the internal financial report for June 30th to July 31st. Is there any comments or discussion?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Blancarta seconds.
Thank you. It is moved and seconded. Can we have a roll call vote?
President Dockstader,
Yes.
Vice President Estrada, Secretary Gutierrez, Treasurer Kelly, Director Santillanes, Director Plancarte,
Blancarta, yes.
Director Tortes,
Yes.
Director Cardenas, Director Perez.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you very much, Lisa. We're going to move on to the fun part. This is the funnest part of... Funnest isn't really a word, I know, but I like that word anyway. Resolution in recognition of Director Service to the Salton Sea Authority. I am so excited to read this and to present this to Director Altrina Santillanes. She has been very busy lately, so we had to postpone this a little bit. So it's a little bit late, but that's okay. And I have been told I need to read it in its entirety, so that is what I'm going to do. Whereas, this is resolution number 24-2, whereas Director Altrina Santillanes serves as a secretary for the Torres Martinez Desert Cahuilla Indians, and in that capacity joined the Salton Sea Authority Board of Directors as a representative thereof in 2017. And whereas since joining the authority leadership team in 2021, being elected president in 2023, Director Santillanes has been instrumental in assisting the authority in its work around the Salton Sea, addressing the concerns of local stakeholders and better understanding and mitigating risks to human health and safety as a result of the constantly changing conditions. And whereas Director Santillanes helped foster the most robust and promising partnership with the federal government since the authority was created in 1993. And whereas Director Santillanes marshaled the support of Congress to secure federal legislation authorizing a U.S. Army Corps feasibility study that led to a federal contribution for long-range Salton Sea management. And whereas Director Santillanes secured federal legislation and obtained the state of California's support for the U.S. Army Corps study. And I'm going fast. Whereas Director Santillanes helped facilitate a formal joint agreement among the U.S. Army Corps, the Authority, and California in December 2022, since then the partnership has expanded its scope to ensure the study addresses the needs of all Salton Sea communities. And whereas under Director Santillanes' leadership, the authority worked with Congress to secure $3.8 million in federal funding and enact legislation enabling the expansion of the feasibility study. And whereas Director Santillanes' leadership, the authority has continued to work with its joint partners and began working on a project on tribal lands. And whereas under Director Santillanes' leadership, the authority was able to successfully secure amendments to current legislation, ensuring any entity created therefrom would coordinate with the Salton Sea Authority, make the authority president its permanent vice chair, add each of the authority's member agencies to its governing board, and require active collaborative planning by the Conservancy to avoid redundancy. And whereas under Director Santillanes' leadership, the authority was able to mitigate $50 million in lost funding for the Salton Sea Restoration Project. And whereas under Director Santillanes' leadership, the authority was able to preserve $65 million in funding for the Salton Sea as part of the 2024-25 state budget. And therefore be it resolved that the Board of Directors hereby expresses its gratitude for her tenure and leadership as President of the Salton Sea Authority, and further resolved that the Board of Directors commends Director Santillanes for dedicated service to her tribal nation, the community, and the broader region, and further resolved that the Board of Directors wishes Director Santillanes continued success in her pursuit of public service, and further resolved that a copy of this proclamation be presented to Director Santillanes as a token of the Board's appreciation and respect.
Gotta get a picture.
Oh, we need a picture.
Take a photo.
You got a phone.
You coming down with us?
Go down front.
And she had to make dinner and get the kids ready for school
She
and
brought breakfast for all of us this
Yeah.
morning.
down there.
That's right.
I guess we're gonna go down there.
Okay.
I have a lot to live up to. How am I going to do all that?
There's great staff here, great support here. Over just a little bit, like you guys are all in the middle.
There we go.
I'm supposed to say Salton Sea.
Just say C.
Good morning, good morning. I'm sorry.
You were by Ms. Santillanes?
Can I actually need a motion to approve that resolution after we took the picture. Can I have a,
I so moved.
thank you. Do I have a second?
Blancarte seconds.
It has been moved and seconded. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
President Dockstader,
Yes.
Vice President Estrada,
Yes.
Director Santillanes,
Yes.
Director Plancarte,
Yes.
Director Tortes,
Yes.
Director Cardenas, Director Perez.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you.
It's unanimous.
It's unanimous, yes.
Yay. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on
Madam
to,
Chair, I think Mr. Jones would like to say
Oh.
2 words.
apologize, go ahead.
I just want to say just thank you. It's been an honor to serve in the capacity of being the Salton Sea former president, and just thank you for everybody, and what an honor it is to sit amongst just great people that truly serve their communities and have such vision and foresight for the future of our Salton Sea and our Coachella Valley. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no further comments, I will go ahead and move on to the SSMP, the Monitoring Implementation Plan presentation by Tanya Marshall.
Hey everyone, how are you? Board and everyone online. I'm not even sure where to look right now. This camera? Thank you. Oh, I have to stay by the mic. That's going to be so bad. I move so much, but we'll try. I want to say that I'm Tanya Marshall from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, and I'm the Salton Sea Program Manager there. If you know me, you know that I am a very positive person and I enjoy meeting a lot of people, and that I live near the community, although not exactly in it, within Riverside County. Maybe you know that I've actually won awards for scientific storytelling and leading amazing teams. And recently I got an award from the city of Riverside for teaching tough concepts to non-scientists. And I am so proud of each and every one of those awards because they show that I've actually grown, because they're all about collaboration. I used to think that I fought for the species and I could deal or not deal with people. That's how it used to be. See, when I graduated from UCR in the 90s, I had these mentors, and they told us it was us versus them, environmentalist versus developer. Put up your dukes, because this is going to be a fight. So I went out into the real world knowing that I was going to have to fight. So I went into my meetings with my shield and my sword, ready for the fight, looking for the fight. And honestly, sometimes actually starting the fight. And do you know what would happen in those meetings? I'd go in there and nothing. Okay, I'm going to fight harder. Nothing. And so I'd go in, fight harder. Nothing. I would just keep hitting my head against a wall until one day I said, I'm just done with my shield and my sword. I'm done talking. I'm done doing this. And I had a really bad headache. So I decided to go into meetings without my shield and without my sword. And I noticed I wasn't hitting my head against any wall. I was hitting my head against everybody else's shields, against their shields. Because everybody comes into a meeting knowing they're the expert. They want to be heard. They want to be seen, and they want their opinions to be known. So I decided I'm just going to start going into meetings, and I'll just throw down my shield, my sword. I just want to listen to everybody. And do you know what happened? They literally cut down all my research, everything. It was dying on the meeting floors, and I couldn't figure it out. I'm now listening to them before I speak until a mentor told me, are you listening to understand? And are you speaking to be understood? Well, once I started to understand that, I went into meetings with a spotlight and a microphone. And I started asking, what do you do? Why do you think you're important? Why do you want to spend your precious time at this meeting? And that's when I got known for making teams. And that's why I'm so excited to present I don't know this. Okay, it is still going. I don't know if that's why I'm so excited to present this information on the mitigation and monitoring implementation plan, because it's all about collaboration. It's about my two favorite things now, science and collaborating. And maybe my third thing, changing the world. So I'll get into my presentation here. Okay, so for my presentation today, I'd like to go over these three objectives. We're going to understand how the MIP and the MIP work plan are related. We're going to look at some activities that are occurring this year, and then we're going to identify some future steps. So I apologize if these slides are redundant for some of you, but I want to make sure that we're all have the same understanding and we're all on the same base. So the MAP, which was the Monitoring Assessment Plan, was a document that was created in 2013, and that stated that we really needed to get a place to find out about the science. We need a document to do that. So it's recommended a document that we would call the MIP, which is the Monitoring Implementation Plan. And it was really, the goal was to answer management questions. But the MAP was very high level. The MIP is a very technical document. And it was released in December 2022 in both English and Spanish, and it can be found on the Salton Sea Management Program's website, where you can find any of these documents. All these documents are there now in one spot. Yes, we have that. But it's also a living document. And what it does is respond to or express what we need to know about the ecosystem of the Salton Sea, and help management make some very good decisions. We've been discussing this morning. So the MIP was designed with the idea that management would need to track status and trends of resources at the Salton Sea and inform the implementation of the restoration programs. The MIP addresses monitoring in several areas. And those areas are seen on the screen here. They were focused. The SSMP itself is tasked with answering a lot of questions within these as we restore habitat around the sea. So remember that this is for the entire ecosystem. This is not just for SSMP projects or for specific projects. It's for the whole ecosystem as a whole. It's to develop consistent surveys, monitoring, and effectiveness criteria. So we have these resources. And as you can see, public health is not one of these areas. Although the restoration areas in there is a clear public health benefits, as the SSMP team and as other partners working directly with the Salton Sea ecosystem, it's not our expertise to do public health. However, this information directly goes for public health. It answers your questions. What is the air quality? What is the water quality? What is the social economics and biological resources that are out there that can be utilized by a whole lot of different people in different arenas? And public health happens to be one. So here are the goals of the MIP, and I'm not going to go through all of them today, but this is what we're following right now. We're identifying what the projects are. We're determining what is going on already at the Salton Sea, who's doing what do we need to do, what did we say we wanted to do, and do we need to do that? Do we not need to be doing something? Can it just be a tweak of a survey to make us get more information that we need? And we started working on these goals, using these goals to write the work plan. So the MIP work plan was the next part of this. So if you've ever heard me talk, you know that I always mention that conservation is just about a whole bunch of conversations. And that's really what it was. It is about going from larger documents to the to more specific and more technical and specific documents with specific information. And this takes a whole lot of conversation. I mean, that was in 2013 for the map, then to the MIP for 2022, and then we started the MIP work plan in 2024, and I'll discuss that a little bit more. We actually started developing it in 2023. But each document has taken more and more collaboration to develop. It's taken more and more questions and more specifics on answering those and getting very clear on what we want. Clarity is king. And this is because the MIP recommends the work plan, but it's not a requirement for the SSMP team. Most of the monitoring and science is not required by a permit, but is needed to answer specific questions. This means that the SSMP will be performing all will not be performing all monitoring activities or leading the surveys being developed by our partners, but it has something that we thought was important enough and fit the community that we would take a lead for, and the community requested that we do that. And the first goal was to determine, what we have out there in this MIP. And I'm really excited about this part, so I'm going to try to stay where I am, focused and here. But this is so exciting. Our first MIP, we went out and we requested information in November of 2023. We got information from over 30 agencies, and that's about 80% response from the people that we requested stuff from. So we're really excited about that, and we want to thank everybody for helping with that initiative and being able to do that. And doing that, we came up with around the sea that there were 39 different surveys and monitoring efforts going on, and they represented all 6 of those areas I showed you on the slide before. It was amazing that that happened to occur. We are also within this developing a place to hold all this data, right? There's all this data that's out there, and we want to make sure that we have it in a central location. So I'll talk about that a little bit in a few. And I'd like to encourage, in October this year, we're going to be starting to do the MIP for next year in 2025. And I want to encourage anyone here on the board or in watching this to really be a part of this development of the work plan, especially if you're dealing with science and science-based projects around the sea and doing those. Because it's so exciting. We're actually creating what we thought we'd be doing years ago, and we're telling the story of the sea through science. And I know you can't see this really well, but I did want to give just a description of this on the show. What this is showing is this is the table we got from all 39 of those surveys, and that they are actually showing status monitoring, focus studies, and effectiveness monitoring. Remember, the MIP doesn't do effectiveness monitoring, but sometimes the stuff that we get from effectiveness monitoring can be used to help us in other arenas. So we want to make sure it's all in one location. So there is a lot of science in different locations occurring. So I'm just going to talk about a couple of them that people are usually very interested in. It's the air quality monitoring. Of course, the SSMP has an air quality monitoring program, but so do others. And why this is so important is to put our resources together. We can work together with agencies like IID, CARB, South Coast AQMD. We can work together to see where our monitors are and get the best information and collaborate and make sure that they are collecting the information that we need and collecting information maybe that somebody else needs, and that we can utilize it all at once. Because if you don't collect, your data out is only as good as your data in. And we want to make sure that the data coming in is what is needed. We also have hydrology and water quality. This is very important, as we know that sometimes these systems go dry when we don't know why they're dry. We also have algae blooms and different things. So we have our scientists out there getting that information. And it takes a collaboration to do that. And why? Because access is a real challenge. Where you can get boat ramps to get on the sea is in the south, and not in the north portion of the sea, where we can get timing to get in there, temperature. And it's no matter what agency you have, you're going to have this access. So we're working together. In that picture of the people there, you see U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, CDFW in the front, they're getting boat time because they actually don't have anyone who can pilot a boat, so we volunteered with that. You can see in the middle, we have different people helping. Some of the challenges, you think you're just going out getting water. Well, you try to go out and get a water sample on a kayak and try to get 19 points and try to be back. You have to have an ice cooler to do that. Not just an ice cooler to get it, but to keep that stuff keep it good, right? And in quality, the quality you need, you've got to ice it up because of the temperatures, ambient temperatures. You've got to get that to the lab. And the only place we could take it is you have to take it to Palm Springs to the airport. So we're not just taking that information. It's got to get within a couple of hours off the sea to the airport, to the lab, and get there while they're open so that they can get the information. It can be handled appropriately. We have had some issues where that has not occurred. And so the challenges of getting the water quality and hydrology, it's there. But we're all working together. It's a collaboration effort. And then biology. Now, biology is actually a general term, and it includes animals and plants. But this is an experimental device I wanted to show because I know people are talking about, are you using the latest technology and those? We are. This one's checking bird calls at Worcester. And we're excited to be using this new technology that may make things easier and more efficient for us in the future. But we do want to note that as this is a device that's still being supplemented and understood, so humans are still required to do the actual surveys. And as anyone knows, nobody wants to be out in 120 degrees. Probably not the birds either. But so we do have some challenges with weather and stuff getting them. But there's species in the water also, the birds, the amphibians, the fish, that's actually is pupfish there. So getting the water quality data, it does help the species and to know, but each one of them would take a different reason that they need the water. Just like the humans would take a different way that they would need the water. So pollution of the water must be done by someone else who can analyze that information appropriately. We can gather the information, but it's up to each entity to analyze what they need from that information. And because I don't want to be biased, there's some land animals too that deal with the water and the coyotes and burrowing owl. And we have to design our projects according to these species being out here also. But as you can see, there is a lot of information, and it's coming from a lot of different sources. And each time we would come to a meeting, we'd hear about more information being out there and go, well, who has it? Where is it? So what we're trying to do is we're looking to collect the data and the links to where the resources are and put it all in one location and put the final reports where they can all be found. Now, I want to note, SSMP team, and specifically CDFW, are not data police. So we're not QAing, QCing this data. We are not saying you can't do that or this data doesn't make sense, you have to do it a different way. That is not our job. Our job would be just to put it in one location where we have all the final reports that make it easier for the public to understand what's being done and makes it easier for other researchers to get that information when they need it. So, and then we can't share raw data in some cases. It's legally not allowed, for cultural and or rare species and that kind of stuff. So we really are concentrating on final data. And in the future, we're hoping to have these dashboards that are more user-friendly. If you've seen our dashboard with our project locations and our project descriptions, oh my gosh, it's wonderful, right? You can just click on it and find it. We're hoping to do that with the science and be able to click on it and say exactly where it's occurring around the sea. But first we need to determine this. We do the first step, which is determine what the data is out there. And I just want to emphasize that all of this is voluntary, remember. We're not telling people you have to do this. This is voluntary information and voluntarily working together to do it. So what are some of our next steps? Note that these overlap. They're not in any kind of specific order. But we have some gap analysis. We've got to figure out what do we need to still do? and know what is occurring around the sea, so that we do know that. We do know that in this work plan now. But now we got to determine what those gaps are. And we have to have some conversations on how to exactly address them. We all know we have limited time, money, resources. We want to make sure we're doing the best information as possible and getting that information out there, the best surveys as possible and getting that information out there. We also want to make sure that we're obtaining these reports for 2024 and then holding meetings and drafting the work plan for 2025. That's what we will do, anticipated around October, because we really want to see, is it continuing? Is it the same research surveys going on? Are we doing different surveys, and what it is? Remember that each one of these surveys has different timelines. So some surveys are done every year, some done every 3 months, whatever it is. So we really want to look at that. And then we want to put together this data management hub and see when the information comes in 2024. We already have a vision. We've already put it up. We want to see if it actually works and what are some of the bugs that we need to get out of it and work through. We anticipate allowing the public to see that sometime in early 2025. And just note that all of this is being reviewed by the Science Committee. The data hub was reviewed, the vision that we had. We had not a meeting, but office hours where people could come and discuss it and ask questions. We also using the Science Committee, or planning to use the Science Committee for the 2024 information, just to see how it's being collected, and is there a better way to collect it? And then also to see where these gaps are. What's going to answer the questions? Because no one person, no one entity knows those answers. But this is why it's so exciting, because it takes all of us to get this done. This is my absolute favorite quote by Margaret Mead. It says, "Never doubt a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." Right? So although you see me standing up here, it is actually a whole group of people that are working on this. They're the superheroes that are living and working in both Riverside and Imperial counties. They're contributing to the field work. In this picture, you can see IID, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and CDFW. We had a day where we just discussed what was working and what wasn't working, the pros and the cons for doing some things, and just really having fun looking at that information and doing what we love, which is collecting science. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tanya. I appreciate that presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Sure.
Well, unless you want to go to the public.
Oh, thank you. Yes, let's go to the public first. Does the public have any?
We do have one member.
Oh, Mr. Spears.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
I won't get up.
I apologize.
This is just a general question for everybody.
I still need you to come to the microphone so that everybody online can hear. Thank you.
This is just a general question that I've been thinking about. As these projects take longer and longer to complete, does anybody know what the genetic makeup of the birds are, the inbred genetic makeup? Because they've been using the Salton Sea as part of the Pacific Flyway as a food source. And as time goes on and each generation is born, I have a feeling they're losing that intuition or inbred ability to seek the Salton Sea as a food source. And I'm just wondering if anybody actually really knows when that limit is to when these birds no longer decide to come to the Salton Sea. Just a general question.
Thank you, Mr. Spears. Sure.
May I ask you? So that's a good question. We do not know the genetic makeup of certain species. Some species we do, some species we do not. It is not within the information that we need currently to answer the management questions that we need. Yeah. So that is why it is not within our scientific information, those genetics, but it would be good to know in the future if money were available and resources.
Thank you very much.
Can I add to that?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. I want to also add that, and Tanya, you can share more about this because you know more about this than I do, but there's quite a bit of monitoring on an annual basis of the bird communities that are at the Salton Sea. That monitoring is completed by CDFW, by nonprofit partners as well. And so there's, quite a bit of observation around the changes in bird communities that are here and kind of the composition of those groups of birds, because this is a migratory area that they're moving through. So I don't know if you want to speak to that, Tanya. My understanding is that we've essentially seen a decline in fish-eating birds, but a huge rise in shorebirds recently.
Right. I am not the bird expert. I apologize. But we have gotten that information and we have seen those. But to speak about specifics, I cannot do that. But it is a flyaway, and it does have over 400 different species that are coming in. So to know the impact of all those species, it is to put them into general calculation, shorebirds and non-shorebirds. But as habitat changes, we do expect to see changes in exact species.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Are we done with the public?
Are we finished with the public? Anybody online?
Nathan White.
Oh, Nathan, you're on.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I might have done that accidentally, but something just came to my mind, which was every endangered species, has certain protections, including the humans, right? But, just knowing what they are and who they are, we know that there's going to be negative impacts for both the birds, the fish, and the people that live around there. I'm just kind of wondering if those mapping of those species and, the mapping of the Pacific Flyway and the negative or positive impacts can be included in some of these studies, because, the whole system really wants to be considered what birds are being impacted on a longer trajectory, not just local birds, kind of same with hydrology, right? It's not just water that's affecting Imperial County, but how is the state and the Colorado River Basin affected by the sea's decline? I think that more higher level holistic kind of understanding of the Pacific Flyway, the species that are affected, can really guide us to know what strategies are best. If burrowing and dust mitigation and hay bales don't create habitat, what are ways that we can get habitat for those things that need it? Those animals that are affected by the sea's decline, where they don't have Mullet Island for nesting, is there a way to create opportunities that are low cost for floating islands to create a nesting habitat? So how can we mitigate the issues, and how can we create places where more fish-eating birds can live? I think would drive a lot of these projects. And I appreciate Mr. Tortes's comment earlier about projects, looking at projects holistically, which ones are feasible, which ones are low cost. We made a proposal for the South Lake demonstration to California Natural Resources Agency, 21,000 acres of habitat on the south side that would cost about $16 million. So, those haven't moved forward, but I think we need to look in bigger terms and look at the upper impact to the whole system. Hopefully that helps. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. White. Okay, we're done with public comment. Any board member comments?
Just very quickly, thank you for the presentation. Nathan, I think you bring up a great point, and that's why I feel that the symposium is going to be very important moving forward, as well as the information that was just provided now. And your point about how do we make this an issue that's beyond the region. I say that because at one point in time in my advocacy efforts as a legislator, for example, other than Denise DeChaney, no one ever spoke about the Salton Sea up there. It took time for folks to understand what it really was, that it even existed, for that matter. Obviously, the departments might have known, but legislators that could vote aye or no on behalf of our region, and specific to resources, for example, or capacity building or projects, did not. So I think, Nathan, your point is very well taken about the importance of how we connect the dots from the micro to the meso to the macro. That's going to be, I think, an effort that we obviously have discussed, but potentially we got to put some milestones to that and timelines and things of that nature. Who knows? But I just think that that's important. Your gap analysis is right on. I think we've had that discussion in the past about what are the gaps and what's missing in the data and what data is actually even out there for that matter. And where is the repository of data? And where can people gather this information in order to move and drive policy, for example, and how we're going to pay for the idea? I think that that's an area that we have so many different entities working on it, but no one's brought it home. And if that's something that you're working on, then more power to you. And obviously I support that 100%. And I think it's necessary. Knowing that resources are limited. And then you talked about air quality issues. Obviously, air quality is of key significance. And just really quickly, I think, Pat, you have the information now that we could probably put up sometime during the meeting about the meeting that's going to take place later today with AQMD. And you mentioned CARB earlier, and the fact that now we have air monitors out there that are looking for PM 2.5 and PM 10. But what about that other dust that we see in the air that we don't know if it actually is a public health issue right now, that we saw, for example, yesterday? So I think overall, though, the point about the gap analysis is very, very important. And I really appreciate that point, and hopefully we can figure that out.
I do want to state that there is some information and there are concerns and potential challenges, but people are seeing the Salton Sea, specifically with birds on the Pacific Flyaway. If you go to the Pacific Flyaway website, you can see that they're very concerned with the Salton Sea being that portion of it. There are some birds that are being monitored on the Salton Sea to see where they go when they leave and never come back. We're looking at that. So there are some efforts on that front, and that might be a front that we could use because it is very important to the Pacific Flyaway.
Thank you. Anybody else? I do have a quick question. I wanted to pinpoint you a little bit more. For the public, the information will be available, you said, in 2025. Are we talking like Q1? Are we February, March?
We anticipate the first quarter.
First quarter.
Yeah, we anticipate that, but you know.
But you never know.
But you never know.
Yeah, no, thanks. I just
we will.
Like a little clarification.
Every time we have a science committee, we do have a public meeting also to ensure that the public understands exactly what's occurring and what we're asking for.
Thank you. Patrick?
So I did want to point out to Supervisor Perez's comment, the link for the 12 o'clock meeting is on our website at saltonsea.com/meetings. So there's a link there that can take you there, and hopefully we'll be done with our meeting by then, so you can join that meeting. I also want to recognize this is extremely valuable work, extremely useful data, but at the same time, I recognize that it's a voluntary program, and its principal focus isn't health and safety. And I think that what my question would be is what role we can play in help, as I say, scripting the questions that need to be researched and answered, because there's a lot of research being done, and I'm not going to say for research's sake, but on areas that are not personal to the people who live at and around the sea that if we can collaborate in defining those questions and find out who the best people to research and find those answers, I think that that will really hone in on some of the concerns that give rise to Mr. Reyes's concerns and otherwise. And I think that, collectively we can contribute to that conversation. So, like I said, I think that you're gonna have massive amounts of data, right? But as it relates to this one particular question, I'm not sure that we don't know what the holes in the donuts are. So.
Can I make a final comment?
Sure. Go ahead, Samantha.
All right. Well, I just want to thank Tanya for being here, for bringing this information to the authority. I think we were, excited to share with this group the development of this effort. And I know there's been a lot of public engagement around the development of the monitoring implementation plan and then annually in the development of these work plans. We thought it was a good opportunity here to highlight what's coming up this fall, which is the development of that next work plan, and really asking folks to participate with the Salton Sea Management Program. We're stepping in here in a place to function as a coordinator in this effort and help support that communication and that identification of the key questions, identification of the key gaps. And there's a lot of that information in the monitoring implementation plan. And then these work plans will build upon that. So just wanted to thank you, Tanya, for bringing this information forward. And I think it's connected to pieces that have been, talked about here at our authority meetings. And so we really wanted to highlight it so that we're, using this, mechanism to recognize we all have different roles. There's really important roles that the air quality districts are playing, that the State Water Resources Control Board is playing, that the Salton Sea Management Program is playing in building projects, that of course the nonprofits, community members are playing. And, what we're highlighting here is efforts to improve that communication, to identify who's doing what, where can we improve, where are we having areas of overlap. So I think there's just more to build on, and I appreciate you highlighting this for the group. And I think we're also happy to come back, in the spring and share what the work plan looks like, if that would be of interest to this group.
I think that would be fabulous. Definitely invite you back again, and thank you very much. We do appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're a very engaging speaker, Tanya.
Oh, thank you.
That's why she's won the awards.
That's right.
When did you graduate from UCR? What year?
I graduated in 97.
I graduated in 95.
Oh, you guys were there at the same time.
Yeah. Okay, if there's no further questions, moving on. Education, outreach, and advocacy. Review the current priorities and budget allocations. I'm assuming I'm turning this over to Patrick.
I feel like I've already covered much of this item, and I appreciate the acknowledgement of the need and the challenges. How do we address the need? And it's a twofold problem. One is how do we pay for it, and how do we implement it? The implementing part of it, in my mind's eye, is not that difficult. The Salton Sea Authority is a joint powers agency. We have nearly 20,000 employees amongst our different institutions with various skill sets. In the area of communications in particular, I know that each and every one of my member agencies is particularly good in their communities at messaging issues. And if those issues are personal to the Salton Sea, we should be working together in a collaborative fashion to make, and together with our partners at the state and with our partners in the community and the environmental and social justice, to make sure that those messages are properly delivered and the results are measured. The paying side of it is that the Salton Sea Authority budget is not a bottomless pit, and when we did the current 25 fiscal budget, we did not include money in there for this exercise. We did have some hope that we would reach an agreement with the state to extend the contract that was in place. That did not happen, although I'm hopeful that we continue our conversations and find those opportunities where we can work together and find state resources to implement. This may be one of them, but we haven't had those conversations yet. But in order to get this done, I think it's very timely, very important because of because of the election that's coming up and the bond issue that's out there, because of the work that's being done on the feasibility study, because of the local projects, including work that's being done on Desert Shores and on the North Lake project, that we build out that underlying framework that allows us to work together with our member agencies to execute on these communication strategies. So what I've proposed in the memo that's in your board package is to reclassify 6 months worth of state advocacy to a public relations contract. I have been in communications with CV Strategies, a communication which operates here in the Coachella Valley but does work statewide. I know that they do work both in the Imperial and Coachella Valleys with hospitals, with municipalities. I know that over half of their staff lives in the eastern Coachella Valley, and I would prefer to put this in a more public manner to advance it, but I just think it's time sensitive and it's a relatively short-term contract. And I think if we can get this started, it will inform a lot of our future work. So it would be my recommendation first that the budget be reclassified from state advocacy, a total of $42,000, and that I'm authorized to enter into a contract with a scope of work substantially as defined in the scope that's in the packet with CV Strategies for a 6-month engagement. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think you're right on, Patrick, when you're talking about making sure that we have an entity to deliver and help us with messaging. I'm not sure if CV Strategies is your organization, though. And I'd like to see what else is out there. Did we vet any other organizations that exist? I'd like to get an idea of, if we did, who are they? And if not, we should. And I know time's of the essence, but I'm not ready to jump in right now and just say, okay, CV Strategies, you're going to start doing this work now. I'd like to know who those folks are that actually do live or work in the east end of the community, because I have not seen them. I never met them. I want to make sure that they are locals. I want to make sure that they understand what we understand as folks that actually live around the Salton Sea. I think it'll be important for us to figure out what are they bringing to the table, and obviously you have some idea. I don't. And aside from that, I'd like to see what else is out there. So that's the only thing I would just suggest, is that I'm not ready for a vote on that specific organization.
So I appreciate the comment, and I understand the concern, and I would only state that for two reasons. One is the bond issue that's out there that will be on the ballot in November, and our next board meeting won't be until November, and because of work that we're doing on the North Lake project and on the Desert Shores project that we'll discuss later. I just think it's very important to get this work done. The contract and my advancing it is actually under our procurement policy. It's consistent with our procurement policy. Like I said, I would love the luxury of time to do that. The scope of this work is, it's a valuable contract. I'm sure that any organization would welcome it, but it's not so substantial that we could spend an awful lot of time trying to figure that out. I appreciate your comments. I'm just impressing upon the board that it's important to move forward with this.
And I hear you, Patrick, but okay, what does that look like? What does that mean? Are we doing interviews? Are we sending out mailers? Right? Is that knocking on doors? I want to know specifically what this organization is going to bring to the table. Is it also in Spanish? Right? What communities they're going to hit? I haven't seen any of that.
So there is a proposal in the package that describes the implementation.
Well, you want to walk us through it?
It's a 4-page. I would invite Ms. Tara Bravo to come up and walk us through the proposal. Thank you, Tara.
Thank you so much for having me here today. I really appreciate the opportunity to discuss some of our current work within the Eastern Coachella Valley and also our current plans in order to secure this work for you, to make sure that we get the information out in a way that resonates with your residents and also those impacted by this incredibly important resource in the Eastern Coachella Valley. So just as a preliminary discussion, I live right off of airport in the back. So I'm definitely an Eastern Coachella Valley resident. I also work with the city of Coachella, work with Carlos all the time. And I've worked with the city of Coachella for approximately 11 years. We also work with the city of Indio. We have done a lot of work in Desert Center, which is one of the impacted communities. We also have done work with the Pioneer Memorial Healthcare District, so are very familiar with our Brawley friends down south of us. We not only have staff members who are bilingual, we also have contacts and have created additional resources in Quirapecha, which is something that is only spoken in the migrant farm workers who are part of that Eastern Valley community, and we feel like that's another really important language and dialect that we make sure that we help them understand what the impacts are to them. In addition to that, one of the things that we would want to do is really take a grassroots effort approach with this, collaborating with Our Lady Soledad, who is one of the most influential kind of organizations in that eastern part of the Coachella Valley. There's a very heavy Catholic community out there, and we want to respect that and make sure that they're involved in this process. We're currently working on the City of Coachella TOT tax ballot measure and want to ensure that people are aware of that as well. So just as an idea, we're currently doing ballot measure work in that area right now, and we want to make sure that you guys are benefiting from all of the work that we'll be doing grassroots style, so that way we're able to keep those costs really, really low. If we're doing it, kind of already and we're already there, we're not going to charge you extra for that kind of work. We want to make sure that we are where we need to be. And the first thing that we would start with is actually evaluating your current resources and making sure that we're leveraging every single one of those, then building out a messaging plan, and then establishing those really important stakeholders that we make sure to connect with individually, because that's what works in the East Valley. A bunch of ads doesn't really resonate. You've got to really connect, and you've got to listen. That's the most important thing we could be doing right now with them. And then in addition to that, we can leverage our resources across the state to help us in Sacramento with our CalAFCO friends. So we currently work with CalAFCO. We just did their whole rebrand, and I'm on the legislative committee. So we make sure that not only do you get really truly local reach, but also expansive statewide and federal reach as well. Does that help answer some of the questions?
It does, actually, and I appreciate your points. It does help to better understand, other than obviously what's on paper, now put a face to the organization. And so will you be the lead on this?
I would indeed be the lead on this. I would be using my 20 years of water experience to help support this effort, and also my long-term residential status here.
And that's important because many times we have individuals that mean well and want to do good work, but yet they come and go. And I just want to make sure that we have access to ongoing conversation with you and the organization. If obviously you'll be working with other colleagues within CB Strategies, I think that's going to be important moving forward. I also would like to ask, as part of your deliverables, consideration as to how this links once again to the partners that we need at the table. AQMD, CARB, obviously we already know about IID, we know about all the locals, but I'm talking about more of the state level and federal level EPA entities that are going to have to be there in order for us to be successful at the end of the day. So that's just another piece of the puzzle that I think might be potentially missing. I don't know, you might have it in there already, might not, but I just want to state that out loud because I think that's going to be critical. But thank you for being here. I appreciate your points. That's what I needed to hear, and I don't have an issue anymore.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tara.
Any other questions?
I actually think I am tired, so I'm off my game. I did not go to the public first, so I believe we might have some public comments.
We do.
Do we have public comments?
Nathan White.
We'll go Nathan White first, and then we'll go in-house after that.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I just kind of wanted to reiterate the comment. I mean, it did answer a lot of the questions, but I think a lot of the questions that Mr. Perez brought forward are still unaddressed, which is, yes, this might be an agency or a group that has a track record, but I think what the community doesn't see is that there's opportunities for transparency and opportunities for other businesses or nonprofits to offer those services. A couple of those might have presented today, some in the past, but the only RFP that I've seen was from Imperial County. I think that was for Desert Shores for the feasibility of the Desert Shores Restoration Project. I think that's what's kind of missing here. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Tetra Tech and their involvement with the Salton Sea Authority and California Natural Resources Agency, that doesn't seem to be a procurement process that gives other people opportunities to put their hat in the ring, right? I think that you will do a great job. I think this opportunity is a great opportunity to move forward, but other people might have other resources and other attributes that they can bring to the table that might be able to do a better job, that are more connected with the community or have a longer track record in the Salton Sea area that can get actionable results. I know it's not a lot of money, but getting feedback and getting on-the-ground education strategies within the high school. Some nonprofits already have those programs in place, and this would just support and bolster that. So I'm just really asking, on a larger scale perspective, is there an RFP opportunity, right? Even if that is a short timeline, can that be done? Should that be done for other projects, not just kind of hand-delivered? But that's just my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. White. Appreciate it. And now I will have let's have Mr. Eric Reyes.
Yeah, Eric, this just reminds you of the last RFP you had, I think a year ago. You had the Coachella-based group, and they subcontracted with Ivy Equity and Justice. And just as Member Perez stated, it came back. They did the job per se, as you put it out. 95% of the respondees were in English. That in no way, and I stated it at the meeting after, in no way did that represent the surrounding Salton Sea community. And I commend you for having the Nahuatl or the, I forgot what language you said, but anyway, the dialect that you have, because that is important. We do run into them. And it is difficult to communicate with them if you don't have a specialist. Will they do the survey and the outreach? That's the thing. Do they trust you? That's what's more important. Us as outreach specialists, that is something we do. But we have to be cognizant of what your needs are as an agency that's raising those funds, not just doing it, but meeting the true word and need of this. And you need to have, yes, the people that speak a different dialect, yes, people that speak Spanish and are not involved and engaged. And that's where I think you would need support from groups like that. And I do like that you have the ability to connect at larger areas to bring more resources, right? We have Torres Martinez as an example. How much outreach is done directly on their tribal nation? To me, that would be key. Not only do they have the tribal nation next to the Salton Sea, they own part of the Salton Sea, right? Those are all examples of what I want to bring forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Is there anybody else that has any comments at this time?
Can I make a quick comment? I do just want to correct a misstatement here in reference to the state, and want to state that we follow all required state contracting laws in procuring our contractors. So I just want to make sure that's clear.
Thank you, Samantha. Also, I just personally, it's a 6-month contract. It's not that long, and I understand time is of the essence. I understand the RFP requirements and the way we were going to go, but at this time, I'm just telling you my personal feelings. It's a 6-month. She's present here today. I, at this time, don't have a problem with it. So
Is that a motion, Madam Chair?
I make a motion to approve. Yes.
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
President Dockstader,
Yes.
Director Santillanes,
Yes.
Director Plancarte,
Yes.
Director Tortes,
Yes.
Director Perez.
Yes.
Motion pass.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Madam President, the next item on the agenda, it deals with an issue raised by Supervisor Perez at our last meeting and discussed in length with regard to the language in the committee assignments and the fact that that legislative affairs is part of the executive committee process and how we engage members generally. We've it's the board's direction and the board's decision as to how we handle that, but specifically because of what we just dealt with and on a going forward basis, I personally would rather have a legislative committee of the board representing one member from each agency that we can work through with the CV Strategies group to make sure that we're aligning all of our member agencies and our advocacies and our public relations efforts in that regard. So it would be my recommendation, based on the discussion, that the board form a separate legislative advocacy committee to inform how we deal with both state and federal policy and issues as they come up. And I think that it will help inform. It would be kind of an iterative process. It would inform the public relations effort, and the public relations effort would help inform the development of this committee's work on a going forward basis. So I don't know that it requires formal action because I think all of the ad hoc committees are the direction of the chair, but that would be my recommendation in addressing that concern that was raised last month.
Mm-hmm.
So I was under the impression that we get into that conversation though, but I thought we had a committee already that would do that. Or which committee is that falling under? Or, because we do have these conversations, but I'm just trying to figure out where.
We broadly deal with it at the board level. The executive committee, the way the language, and I think you're right, and once this is resolved, next month I'll bring back a revised committee schedule, and I'll take a critical look at the language that's in there that describes each group. But in that description, it references that it's reviewed by the executive committee. And I don't think it was the intention for the executive committee to have any extra authority to act on legislative matters that wasn't directed by the board. But I think that in better judgment, and frankly my personal preference would be to lean into a committee that when we meet we can focus strictly on where this session of the legislature is going, how we're dealing with matters in DC and otherwise. So that's my preference.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. I think it makes sense. Obviously, the connection to the executive board, because that is the executive board, and they're driving the organization. But I also think that it should have some sort of link to the projects. In order, you got to connect the dots, basically.
We have a projects committee, and they have met frequently,
Yeah.
and the projects committee will review. One of the items we'll talk about is the RFP for technical services on Desert Shores, and that will go through the project committee before it comes to the board.
I can appreciate that. I don't know if you need a formal vote for that, or
I
it
think
can
it's just
be done administratively.
Informational, I think. Right. But that's the direction we're going to move towards.
Okay.
You can direct me, and I'll put the schedule together.
I direct you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Are we on project updates?
Madam Chair, before we get started on the next item, I will
sir.
have to excuse myself. I do have a part-time commitment back in El Centro, and I will monitor this on Zoom as I'm driving on the road.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I have to head out to the CVAG meeting on the energy issue, because I sit on the AQMD board as well.
And we still have a quorum.
Almost.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I too have to leave. I have
Oh, we're kind of close.
same meeting that Director
Well,
Perez is going
my
to.
presentations will be relatively quick, but we can try and get out of here for that
Thank
meeting.
you. This is a cue to me to hurry these up a little faster,
All right.
right? That's what this is.
Let me just crank through the project updates. On the North Lake Pilot Demonstration Project, we had a very productive gathering in Sacramento, a 2-day meeting based on the geotechnical results of the work done by Dudek, and looking at the different options and directions for the project. Some concepts were developed that are being further refined by the engineers to determine a cost associated with that. We're also working with the county and with the state on a public engagement process to reintroduce the current thinking and direction of that project. We will get together with a planning group probably in September, and a more formal public meeting will be late October or November based on the current availability of the supervisor and facilities. But we've made significant progress on that project. I say it every time, it is a demonstration project, and what we have learned through the slog that we've been through on that is transformative to a lot of work that the state is doing too. I think that they're having to deal with some of the issues like the wetlands and others that we're going to have to integrate relationally to every project that we do at and around the state. On the Desert Shores project, yesterday we issued an RFP for technical services to evaluate the hydrology and the geotechnical nature of the berm, and I appreciate Mr. Spear's comments, but the RFP was written specifically to address the request of the community to build the berm, drill the well, and fill the hole. And so what we're hoping to get back from that proposal is a scope of work from the professionals in the industry that will tell us specifically what we need to evaluate to do that work, and to provide a preliminary estimate of what that project would cost based on some preliminary design scheme. I'm hopeful that we can engage Mr. Sefton in reviewing those proposals when they come in, so that when we make a selection of that we have community engagement in that effort. The timeline is a fairly short timeline, so it was released yesterday. The responses are due on October 11th, and the proposed contract execution for this work is October 25th, although that may be delayed a little bit in order to secure proper approvals from the board. We may have a special meeting to do that, but we'll see how the progress of that solicitation advances. Happy to answer any questions. And that concludes my project updates. I don't have any new information on Bombay Beach.
Okay. I'm going to go with the public first. Does anybody have any? Mr. Spears.
Yeah, just,
Oh, sorry, Eric.
will you make whatever's available public or transparent as it becomes?
So the RFP is on our website right now.
Oh, it is on the website.
And yes, this will be a public process.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Reyes?
Just real quick, in our outreach, Bombay Beach, obviously, very eclectic community, to say
Those
the
are my
least.
people, Eric.
Yeah. They're, you know, bohemian and many other things. They really have a trouble with that these projects, and I know they've tried to convey those feelings. Right? They obviously need more straight out information for them. Even if you have to appease them over and over again. And it's just a suggestion, no reason to have people on your back for something that that takes a little time to follow through and have completion of where you want to be.
Can I ask if you're referring to the Audubon project or some of the work that the state's doing?
Both, yeah. The K bales as well and everything else.
Okay.
Quick follow-up on that. Just want to direct people to our most recent newsletter. I think we released it last week, and we have a save the date in there for a community workshop in the community of Bombay. about the project being developed there, the wetlands project. So we're really looking forward to that. It's in mid-October.
We saw a report of the hay bale's not doing what they already were up in arms about it, and it's not producing what they were hoping, the state was hoping it would produce as well. So if you could, they mix things together. I know you're only in charge of one thing at a time, but if you can have someone to have ancillary answers for them as well, or a presentation at this, that would be the best to keep them all engaged and on your side, that you are working with them to give them as much information as possible.
Absolutely. That's helpful feedback. Thanks. That's the plan.
And then I have 2 comments online. I'm going to assume we have Nathan White first.
Tom Sefton?
Oh, I lied.
Yeah, I can get started. So I'm on the website right now and just trying to look for that information and see about that grant solicitation or that call for proposals. This was in line with my previous comment, is just more of the marketing outreach for people that aren't able to join today's meeting, maybe sending that out in the newsletter or the email contact list. That was kind of in line with my previous comment, and I apologize, Samantha, for inferring that the state doesn't follow procurement processes. To me, it's more just the outreach to invite people to participate in those, because some people aren't able to follow the websites. Maybe just a 2-part question. Hopefully the state can do that for future RFPs or other procurement processes, but specifically to the Salton Sea Authority, where is that located on the website?
So,
and where can that newsletter or that announcement be sent out to the public? Thank you.
So Nathan, it was on there earlier, but I'm not seeing it right now. It will be back up there in 5 minutes on the agenda, and by the end of the day, it'll be a link on the homepage that should take you to the project website.
Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you, Patrick. And then hopefully maybe just send that out to all of the...
We're going to send it out to the entire distribution list.
Excellent. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Okay, now let's move on to Tom Septon.
Hello. Thank you. I'd like to make a quick comment on Director O'Dowd's report on the Desert Shores RFP. By the time the contractor is hired to do the hydrology, we as a community should be collecting data on the seepage rate from the banks of the Desert Shores channels, and we would implore the Salton Sea Authority to ask whatever contractor they hire to look at the data that we are collecting and to take it seriously. We are virtually ready to collect data. We've built our berm. We are ready to put water in a fairly large canyon that was eroded out by high water flows in the last few winters, and we are going to be collecting data very quickly. So I hope that they would take it seriously and take a look. Thank you.
So Tom, if you can get me the pertinent information on that, I'll make sure that it's included in the packet that's provided to prospective bidders.
Thank you. We will certainly share our information with you. And do, if you wish, if you're coming by Desert Shores, come out and have a look. It's at the east end of Honolulu Lane in Desert Shores.
All right.
I'm going to make a trip out. It won't be tomorrow, though, but I'm going to make a point.
Director Dockstetter, you are very welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. If we're finished with project updates, since everybody left our meeting practically that's up here, just kidding. Can we move on to reports, federal reports? Is Lisa Moore online?
The remaining. It's nice to see everyone. I will keep it quick because it's been a long meeting. Back here in DC, there's 2 of me. That's okay. We are working on appropriations, and I reported in the last meeting that in the Energy and Water Appropriations Bill on the House side, Congressman Ruiz requested and received an extra $2 million on top of the typical $2 million received by Reclamation for the Salton Sea program. So that's a plus up on the House side. Since we met, the Senate Appropriations Committee has moved on its bill, reporting it out of committee in that piece of legislation, Senator Padilla requested the same plus up of $2 million. So coming out of the House and the Senate, typically if we have the same approach in each body, typically it would stay in the final legislation. Having said that, appropriations, whereas back in the day we used to pass them close to the end of the actual or the beginning of the fiscal year, we are likely to be late. So this is FY25 that we're working on. With the election and all of that, we're probably looking at, at some point in the beginning of next year to pass those measures. But it's good that it's in there. I would expect that it stays in there. Looking ahead on sort of funding needs, with the $3.8 million we were able to secure in the work plan for the core feasibility study, and the Corps' anticipated budget for the feasibility study and these early implementation projects. We are likely looking at an FY26 need for roughly $2.1 million to move the study forward. We're in pretty good shape because of the work plan funding we were able to put together. That process for FY26 will likely start potentially before FY25 bills pass, but it will be something that we'll be working on coming into the new year. So those are just two things I wanted to highlight for the board, or a few other additional things in my memo, but I think that's those are the most important pieces. Does anyone have any questions?
Nope. No questions. Thank you very much, Lisa.
Sure.
All right. Are we moving on then to Bureau of Reclamation, Jeremy Brooks?
He was not able to join us today.
Okay. Moving on, State Advocacy Report, Horacio Gonzalez. Is he online?
Hi, directors. We're almost afternoon, but I wanted to just focus my comments on the passage of a couple bills that are of relevance to the authority, and in particular, the Conservancy bill. When the Conservancy proposal was first introduced, the authority's position was explicit. We were concerned that the authority, as it was being structured, would lead to duplication and redundancy between the Conservancy and the role that the authority has as the lead entity on restoration coordination activities with the state. So we lobbied that position aggressively with members of the Senate and Assembly, and even though we were able to secure significant amendments in the Assembly, the bill's scope still lended itself to that duplication of efforts because the Conservancy was still authorized to do work in actually implementing projects versus taking care of the O&M component. In addition to the legislature, we also lobbied the governor's office pretty aggressively, and thankfully that message resonated. When the final Conservancy was moved forward, it was amended to explicitly limit its scope to the O&M of completed projects, which is exactly what we have been pushing for the last 2 years. That measure is now before the governor's desk and is likely to get signed. As you're looking, of course, into next year, there is worth reminding you that there is $10 million that is set aside in the climate resiliency bond that voters will be seeing in November. If voters do pass that measure, it is certainly going to be incumbent on the authority to really figure out how much of those $10 million it wants to go after. The way that the $10 million was structured was that it can either go to the authority or the creation of Conservancy. So understanding what that number is and then ultimately lobbying it aggressively. That process takes place through the budget allocation process, but it's certainly one that you want to start on early. That's really the item. The other two bills relate to the Southwest Economic Region. This was a recommendation from the Lithium Valley Commission. That measure also moved forward, as well as AB 2922 related to the Capital Investment Program and reestablishing it under state law. This will be a key program for the development of the Lithium Valley. Those are the three measures I wanted to highlight, and certainly just before concluding, this will be my last meeting. It certainly has been a pleasure working with you. And best of luck. But certainly any questions, please do ask.
Thank you very much, Horacio, and we appreciate everything that you've done for this organization. Does your crystal ball say that climate resiliency, that bond's going to pass? I have no idea.
Yeah, hard to say. Hard to say. It's honestly, it's a little too early. I've seen multiple polls on the bonds, but it's honestly too early. Wait for a bond. There's going to be a poll that comes out a little bit later this month, led by UC Berkeley. It is considered the seminal poll of all things state, and that poll is going to poll the individual bond proposals. That'll be your clearest indicator of whether or not this has a chance of passing.
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Does anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I just want to say that working together with Horacio over the last 3 years that he and I have been engaged in, especially on the Conservancy, we could not have achieved what we did without his relationships, without his understanding of the process, and his sheer diligence. So I'm personally grateful for that and for all the other things that we worked for. And I'm looking forward to other opportunities in the future to work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Horacio. Our organization just needs to do a better job at messaging out, and so that's just where we have to go at this point in time. So, thank you. All right. Moving on is Mr. Miguel Hernandez. Oh, State of California.
I'm here. Hi, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Miguel Hernandez, and I have a quick update. I actually have a list of things to update, but I'll keep it brief. We recently sent a newsletter via email, but it's also living on our website if you want to check it out with more details. We actually have a really nice piece about the Species Conservation Habitat Project that includes details about the expansion that's underway. And it also has a really nice video about SEH, so I invite you all to check it out. Also to say that we have completed the first round or first update on our project tracker. We will do another one before the end of the year, and that will be the regular for us on the project tracker. That tracker includes updates. That's sort of a single stop shop or platform where you could get updates on our projects. So that has been recently updated. Also, we'll be, every 6 months we'll continue to do that, or so twice a year. We'll keep those updates going for our projects. Also, we've completed, finalized our community needs reports, also found on our website. So that helps us as a program identify what community has have their concerns, what their needs are, but also as a program and as we deliver on projects, how can we best meet those needs from community and implement those within our SSNP projects, of course, within our scope, within our jurisdiction, but also there is another report and that identifies other actions or other needs that fall outside of the Salton management program. So invite you to all to check it out. It's also found on our website. It's both English and Spanish. So again, it covers a lot of the needs. There was a lot of research, working group meetings that we had, meetings with the tribe. Just a really robust outreach effort and engagement effort that went through developing this report. So they've been finalized. Again, they're found on our website. And then I have a series of events happening. Assistant Secretary Arthur mentioned the meeting that's coming up for the community of Bombay Beach. We're going to cover the Audubon Wetlands Project there. We send out a save the date, but it seems that we don't have much details yet other than it's going to be in the evening. We have a regular transportation services available, and we'll try to be as amenable as it could be as for our community meeting and connect the Audubon team, the Salton Management Program team with the residents of Bombay Beach. So again, that's October 10th. But before that, we also actually have a meeting with our Community Engagement Committee. If you're not familiar with that group, this is a group of folks, great folks that have been advising the state or the Salton Management Program on how to best connect with communities, how to conduct our meetings, best strategies, and just tactics on how we can make our public meetings more engaging, how we can make our messaging more engaging as well. So that group is convening on September 26th at 10 a.m. You can find the link to join as a member of the public, also on our website. There's a calendar, and you can find that link there. And also another event that's happening that Comité Cívico del Valle and their Salton Sea Community Outreach and Engagement Program is doing. Reach out to us to coordinate to celebrate Latino Heritage Month. Latino Heritage Month begins on September 15th, sunsets on September 15th to October 15th. And we'll do a community tour at the SCH project. So Comité Cívico is taking the lead on registering folks to attend. This is going to be a free tour. So feel free to reach out to their officers. They're doing over the phone registrations for folks to attend. Again, that's October 5th. So, and then we'll also have, the Salton Sea Summit. The program is offering tours for both the Species Conservation Habitat Project and the Vegetation Enhancement Projects. So invite you all, if you haven't checked those out, to join one of those one of those tours, and learn a little bit more of what the Salton Sea Management Program is doing at the sea and what's coming down the pipeline. So I'll stop there and answer any questions.
Thank you, Miguel. You sound very busy. And before I take anybody else, I do want to say the project tracker, I love it. I love the website. I've checked it out. I will have to make a special note, though. I really need to go on there probably prior to each meeting just to see that. So I congratulate you guys on that website. That is phenomenal. So, and I hope really showcase that when you go to Bombay Beach, so that, because some of those people will definitely, they'll get online. I mean, they will track your projects. So just letting you know now, if, once they know, they probably aren't aware. Anyway, thank you very much. Does anybody else have any comments? No. And then I'm bummed. October 10th, because you're going to do that in the evening, correct?
Yes, that's going to be in the evening at Bombay, yes.
I have Farm Bureau dinner. I can't make it. I was going to try to put an appearance, so anyway. I don't think you're going to change it for me, so. All right. You will be there, Patrick? Oh, Patrick will be there. Excellent, excellent. Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Okay, if no one has anything further, I will go ahead and move on. Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. On to Salton Sea State Recreation Area, Taylor Hunziker. Hopefully I pronounced
Good
that.
afternoon, members of the board. Taylor Hunziker, District Interpretive Coordinator for Salton Sea State Recreation Area. Just have some quick visitation updates. We had 539 day users come through the recreation area, 72 campers in the month of August, and then 322 people through our visitor center. This does represent a 30% decline from August 2023. In addition, we've done some engagement in the community. We participated in the Museum Day at Pioneers Museum down in Imperial. That was a successful event. Got to engage the public and offer up some of the programs that we participate in at Salton Sea. In addition, we've continued our work with Imperial County Probation Department's Aspire After School program. And then we've continued to engage the Bombay Beach Nature Club. Right now we're in California Biodiversity Week, so we've had some events showing people the biodiversity of the Salton Sea, showing people how to use iNaturalist and some of the great things that are happening in our area. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Taylor. We appreciate that. And that 30% decline, is that just the month of August compared the month of August 2023 to the month of August 2024 because it's 1,000,000 degrees outside? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Anybody else have any questions? All right. Moving on to local. I understand we do not have a report today from Salton Sea Action Committee, so we will move on to Executive Director's report. And hopefully you will report on our great trip that we took.
Well, I would thank you for doing that. It keeps going off on me, and I'm not touching it. I did want to say that we were able to pull together a group and visit the Prado wetlands last week, and it was a quality fact-finding mission. The work they're doing there will really inform the work that we're doing at the C. We had representatives from Congressman Ruiz's office with us. We had a couple representatives from State Senator Padilla's office. Vivian from DWR was able to join us, which was really significant because of all of his work in the SCH and elsewhere around the C, and others from the Air Quality Management District and whatnot. We did have a plan. We had an intention, and we've got speakers lined up for a visit to Owens Lake next month. But just like the Desert Shores project as a demonstration project, and we learn as we go, we ran into an issue and a question with our insurance company on this Prado Wetlands tour that is making some challenges in putting together our Owens Lake tour. So we are probably going to have to postpone that. I'm going to know more by the end of the week now that I'm going to get together with CV Strategies and see if they have any ideas of how we can address this issue. But it will be addressed, but it is something that is an issue that we're going to have to answer in order to implement these types of fact-finding missions on a continuing basis. And Madam President, in the interest of time, that's all I have to report today. Happy to answer any questions.
No, so you'll let us know by the end of the week because that frees up 2 more days on my calendar.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Tomorrow.
Perfect. I appreciate that. Anybody else? Any questions? Any comments? Oh, we need to get on. I'm going to assume no, in the interest of time. Do we need to approve the 2025 meeting calendar?
That'll be next month. So these are items for next meeting. We added 2 things to the agenda, Madam President. One is to be able to move the agenda around, item number 2, and we added item number 7, which is anything that the board might like to be added to the next meeting, like the presentation that was tabled.
Oh yes,
for
please.
Today would be one.
Let's add that to the next meeting. Thank you.
So we will do that, and we will work with IID staff to
Thank
make
you
sure
for your
that
graciousness. We appreciate it.
prepared
We really do want to
to
present.
make that
and it was
presentation happen.
timing issues, so it
Right.
just, yeah.
I'm also
wasn't-
expecting an update next month on the feasibility study. I think that's been making significant progress. We are waiting for some finalization of increased costs that the Corps has to sign off on. We completed the scope. It's called a VTAM that outlines the scope of what will be accomplished. Now we just need to finalize, and I understand that Secretary Connor has reviewed it and then viewed it favorably. We just need to get all the signatures, and hopefully next month we can have a more substantive presentation on that.
Okay, thank you. If there are no further comments, the next meeting time will be November 14th. Oh, it's close to Thanksgiving. 10 a.m. at Imperial County Board of Supervisors Chambers in El Centro. At this time, meeting's adjourned.